This is our 15th podcast on the 16th of Elul, Thursday, September 7th. We have come through the Unutana Tokef now, and we are on the path of return, Tshuva. We can move ahead to the Kedushah, the proclamation of God's holiness. Every morning, if there's a minyan, we pray a version of this prayer, joining choirs of angels in chanting visions of praise. On Rosh Hashanah, other affirmations and prayers are added, that God's holiness should be reflected in the whole Jewish people, in Jerusalem, in the land of Israel, in the lineage of David, that this will bring gladness, hope, joy, and a messianic future, and that evil will be eradicated from the earth. In these beautiful proclamations, we're indicating our wish that this Rosh Hashanah would be a truly new beginning. I want to focus, however, on a particular passage. We ask that God instill awe and reverence in all the creatures, so that all will recognize the one King, and then let them all become a single society, it says, Agudat Achat, to do God's will wholeheartedly. This is a clear reference to the notion that Rosh Hashanah is a unique day, not just for the Jewish people who mark their calendars from this day, but for the whole world. The idea will come up again after each of the three sections of prayers that mark the themes of Rosh Hashanah: kingship, remembrance, and shofar blowing. In a full traditional service in the Chazan's repetition, after the verses of each of those sections are said and the shofar is blown, the congregation recites together the following: Today is the birth of the world. Today all creatures stand in judgment, whether as children or as servants. If as children, be merciful like the mercy of a father for children. If as servants, our eyes depend on you till you are gracious and grant a verdict as clear as light, O awesome and holy one. This day is the beginning of your work, a remembrance of the first day. That is, it's a remembrance of the creation of the universe, or, as the rabbinic traditions say, the creation of Adam and Chava, the source of every human being on earth, and that's why it should be a holiday for everyone. Although most of the Rosh Hashanah prayers do focus on the Jewish people's relationship to God, these are clear statements that we are not separate from the rest of creation or the rest of humanity in this respect. The proclamation of God's oneness and kingship extends to everyone, and all creatures can feel that sense of awe. I am drawn again and again to this passage about a single society. Our sages and poets were imagining a unified world, as we do in our greatest dreams. For them, however, it was clearly connected to awe and reverence for God. That's an interesting idea to contemplate. The key is awe. Jews were not naive dreamers about world peace. Even though we idealized an Am Yisrael, one people, we experienced plenty of internal conflict, and we knew it wasn't easy to keep a society together. We also kept a thorough tracking of history and knew that empires come and go. Rulers projected greatness and glory and believed they could not unite the world. Alexander or Augustus or Trajan or Constantine might have tried to create an Agudat Achat, a single society under their rule, but each one failed to sustain itself. The sages who wrote these words were saying that only one thing has the remotest hope of providing the foundation for a unified society, and that was what we call Yirat Shamayim, fear of heaven. Awe is the more acceptable word today, of course, because we don't like the word fear. But their request is basically that God place that fear or awe in people. Tein pachtecha, give them fear of you. Grant that they will feel dread. It sounds strange to our ears. They were asking God to give them awe as a gift that the Jewish people had received because we had received Rosh Hashanah, this day of judgment, and the days of awe, the first 10 days of the year. What is this about? Like chesed, loving kindness, or ahava, love, yira, or awe, is a quality of being, or perhaps better, a continuing motivation. Essentially, it's an inner gift. It might be cultivated by certain practices, like the ceremonies of Rosh Hashanah, but it has to be implanted and grow from inside. External coercion, using police and prison, lightning bolts, or terrorism, does not work on a long-term basis. The human spirit rebels against that kind of fire and fury. But our spirit cherishes the opportunity to express awe and reverence that comes from within. It's worth contemplating the dynamics of awe and reverence in each of our own lives. What reverence do we have for teachers or elders? What awe do we have at science and the work of researchers who reveal so much about our amazing cosmos? How does that deep respect motivate us? And what about with our religious leaders? What motivates and sustains respect for them, and how does that affect our lives? And then let's translate that to thinking about God. Where do reverence and awe toward God get expressed? Are we motivated to put aside our differences and create a more unified society in at least our neighborhood or our extended family? If not, why not? Is it that awe is missing, or that it's not effective? Were the sages correct that awe is essential for this? We tend to think that unification is created by negotiation and rational discussion, where all sides, many sides, have interests at stake, and we will come to a conclusion that will benefit everyone, at least a little, and probably satisfy no one completely. It's more like a balance of powers than unification. But if it's a fair agreement, we think it has a chance of working. But what if everyone present were motivated by awe of God, knowing that God wanted a unified society, and that God wasn't going to impose it by fire or flood, but would simply grant us more awe if we asked for it? For me, it's pretty much a foreign thought, but provocative, perhaps awesome, and definitely appropriate for the days of awe.